Does the Mikko Rantanen trade have any effect on Mitch Marner, and is Bobby McMann a lock for the top six? Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Leafs. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writers Terry Koshan and Lance Hornby. And what a trade we had over the weekend, guys, on Friday night as the Carolina Hurricanes make a big splash acquiring superstar Mikko Rantanen from the Colorado Avalanche. Rantanen, of course, is set to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. And go figure, so is Mitch Marner. So a lot of people are trying to maybe draw a line between the two, Terry. It's different situations for both guys, of course, but I know you wrote about it yesterday. What do you make of this situation with Marner, and does it relate at all to what happened with Rantanen?
Well, yes and no, I guess. I mean, the same echelon of player, you're going to give Rantanen the nod here because of the Stanley Cup ring with the Avalanche and 100 plus points in the playoffs. So, maybe not in that regard, but, contract wise, I suppose. But, a few things. Marner's not going to get traded. He has the full no move, which Rantanen didn't have in Colorado. And, the other significant factor to me is Marner has been adamant he wants to stay. He's a hometown kid. There's been no indication he's coming off that. There's been no indication from the team that they don't want to sign him. So I don't know. I don't really see. I think I wrote there's a few. If there's a line connecting the two, it's crooked in some areas, or the links aren't as strong. And I think maybe the bigger thing here might be if Rantanen gets a deal done, and how that might look for Mitch Marner and what Darren Ferris thinks of that, and the cap going up and everything. But I don't. I know that a lot of us are jumped to draw parallels for late Friday night over the weekend, but they're just not really there as it stands today and going forward for the next 5 weeks until the trade deadline.
Well, I'd say that what a tailor-made story for the winter blahs of January that this would come along. Certainly, it's as Terry said, it's got everybody talking, and of course, some parallels as Terry alluded to Marner. But really, I think if Marner was struggling, it would be a different animal because people were looking from September on, when supposedly, or summertime on after Berube got hired, that these guys weren't going to get along, and it was a matter of time. And Berube might browbeat him to the point where he'd want to go, but that hasn't happened. Marner's been very adamant, at least publicly, about wanting to stay. We'll have to see what's going on behind the scenes with the new deal. But really, Marner holding all the cards in terms of trade. And the best may be yet to come for this guy. And what happens if he has a monster playoff, too? I mean, it'd be more incumbent on the Leafs to keep a guy from Toronto here, a guy they've developed, and see what goes on from there. And the cap going up is in Marner's favor to stay in Toronto.
One thing too I'd add to that is, Darren Ferris isn't a buckling type, right, with any of his clients. So, if negotiations get contentious, it doesn't necessarily mean it won't happen here necessarily for Marner, but I think that people, if anyone's thinking out there, it's just going to be a smooth sail into a contract extension. It might be misreading it. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we definitely will. The last one was interesting, of course, but this one might be even more interesting potentially. Meanwhile, Bobby McMann getting an audition on the first line the other day. Lance, of course, Matthew Nye's injury opening the door for him. It's been an interesting season for Bobby McMann at times. The coach has, not been too pleased with his play, but at least over the last little bit here, he has started to look like the player that we saw a season ago. He's working his way up through the lineup, getting that first line audition. But when this team is fully healthy, do you think he has a spot in the top six, or is this team better optimized with him playing a third line role?
A great line from Austin Matthews the other day that McMann and Nyes are essentially the same player. And you look at it, left shots, 6'2", 6'3", very muscular players. I've certainly been encouraged at the way McMann's come on. And there's been a lot of players kind of thrust into that first line role who weren't quite ready for it. And they've tried everybody from Domi, I guess, to Steven Lorentz, but McMann does have long-term potential there. Certainly, he's a top six guy. I'm not saying at all that they should, ignore him when Nyes comes back, because he was having such a great season before he got hurt. But good to see he's back. A little wake-up call from Coach Berube early in the season, and now I think you're going to see a great competition for jobs there. It also depends on what the coach wants to do with Domi and Pacioretty. Pacioretty, I think they're trying to squeeze blood from a stone there and trying to give him quality ice time, and that he's helped a bit, but certainly showing his age. Domi is going to depend up and down to center, left wing, where he winds up. I'm sure he didn't envision playing with Pontus Holmberg as his center moving over or trying anything else really. So it's all on McMann to keep it going, and certainly he'd stay in the top six.
Yeah, that second line for me, I mean, Nia's spot is on the top line, right? I mean, he gets that back when he comes back. I mean, I think Bobby McMann could fill the net there, and I don't know that would make Nice lose that spot. Nice for me is a top six guy too. Pacioretty's not. We see that now. I mean, you like what Max has brought in the games he's played, but that's just it. In the games he has played, and like Lance says, his body is catching up to him now. And no fault to the player, just the fact that you get into your mid to late 30s, and you're starting to try to play a little more of a physical game. This is what can happen, and I just don't see him as a top six guy. Max Domi has to produce more somehow to be seriously thought of there. I mean, Bobby McMann, 14 goals. You didn't have to start like we alluded to, and sat on the bench to start the season, but has really come on. And Nice to me is the exact prototype of what Berube wants in a winger, and McMann would be 1B in that regard. I think there's a bit of a difference there because they are 6 years apart in age, and McMahon's coming to that party a little later in his career, obviously. But we're seeing what Nice is going to be for a long, long time. But yeah, McMann for sure is a top six, I think. Now, again, it depends what happens on or before March 7th, the trade deadline. And if you do add up the middle, what does that do for a Domi? If everybody is healthy. But I think we're kind of knocking on wood here if we assume that the Leafs will be at 100% health going into the playoffs in April. So, it all work itself out in the wash. But, barring injury to McMann, I think he should be up there. On that second line, you figure out who else he plays with. Tavares going to come back, of course, Nylander. I mean, we'd have to see what they would do together over the long run. But yeah, he's Berube type, and he's putting the puck in the net. He gets it in the forecheck, all those things you want to the sides and that left side in your top six.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that the Maple Leafs didn't have much depth on the left side, and they were clamoring for players like this. But it's been a great season so far for Bobby McMann. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Terry Koshan and Lance Hornby, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.